Hi guys, I'm back for another few chapters of Renee Watson's Piecing Me Together. We're going to pick up with chapter 25 and go forward for about 20 minutes. We'll see how many chapters. Remember, the chapters are pretty short in this book. So chapter 26, El Barrio, which means the neighborhood. Okay, so tell me again, what stop do I get off at? Sam asks. I repeat the directions to her, part of me not believing she's really coming. After the fuss her grandma gave, I never thought she'd go anywhere past Lombard and MLK. Can you meet me at the bus stop? I told my grandparents you'd meet me and walk me back. I want to say no. I want to say, if you don't feel safe coming to my house, then don't come. But instead I say, sure, because I know Sam really wants to come, and I know she wouldn't be so scared if her grandma hadn't polluted her mind with all those stories. I time the ride and leave to meet Sam. I zip my jacket, pull my hood over my head. October is gone and November has settled in. Not a lot of rain this month, but cloudy, cold, and gray, always. Sam is not on the first bus. And for one moment, just one, I think, what if something happened to her? The whole story plays out in my mind. She will be on the news every day because she is a white girl, and white girls who go missing always make the news. I will volunteer and join the other searchers. We will search all the many places a body could be. Cathedral Park, some hidden bush under the St. John Bridge. For months, people will tell girls and women to be careful and walk in pairs, but no one will tell boys and men not to rape women, not to kidnap us and toss us into rivers. And it will be a tragedy only because Sam died in a place she didn't really belong to. No one will speak of the Black and Latino girls who die here, who are from here. A bus screeches to a stop. I swallow those thoughts, watch the passengers exit the bus, and then I see Sam getting off at the back, smiling her Sam smile. We walk to Frank's. Jade, my friend, where have you been? Frank asks. He grabs the silver tongs and begins putting JoJo's into a small white bag. I can tell he just made them. The potato wedges have the crisp golden look that I like. He throws a few patches of ketchup in the bag. I've been busy with school, I tell him. By the time I come home, you're closed. That's good, he says. He begins putting chicken wings into another white bag. 4? Yes, please. He nods and puts in a few extra. Sam walks over to the aisle of chips. Frank whispers, how you liking it out there with all them white folks? It's all right, I tell him. Good. Sam returns with a bag of Doritos. I hand them to Frank and give him money. He waves his hand in the air. It's on the house today, he says. Tell your mom I said hello. Haven't seen her in a while either. I will, I say. Thanks for this. I take the food and walk away. As I'm going out the door, Lily is coming in. I just left your house. EJ said you should be back soon, she says. She reaches out to hug me. I hug her back and smell the hair grease and the fruity lotion she uses all in one. Feels like I haven't seen you in forever, Lily says. I know, I came by the other night, but you weren't home, I tell her. Don't even try to put this on me. You're the one who has to take a canoe, a plane, and a bus to school. If you would be regular, I'd be seeing you every day. Lily barely gets her joke out. She's laughing so hard. Then she finally notices that I am not alone, and she pulls her laugh in. This is Sam, I tell her. Finally, Lily opens her arms wide, like she's known Sam forever. They hug. She's good with anybody who's good with me, and vice versa. Nice to meet you, Sam says. What are you two about to do? Lily asks. Nothing, just going back to my house. Lily walks the aisles and gets a candy bar and a soda. After she pays, we walk out together. You want to go to Andrea's? Kobe is there, she says. Lily and Andrea are cousins. Sorry, it was hyphenated, kind of in a weird place at the end of the line. Lily and Andrea are cousins. They've lived together since we were in middle school, but Lily always calls it Andrea's house. Kobe is their other cousin too. He might as well live there. Every time I go there, he's there or on his way or just leaving. Sam and I eat the JoJo's on the way. Lily gulps her soda. When we get to Andrea's house, her mom points toward the door at the end of a long hallway. They in there, she says. Andrea and Colby are in the bedroom listening to music. When they see me, they start screaming like I'm some celebrity or something. Jade! Andrea is the first one to hug me. She is wearing jeans and a shirt, and somehow she still looks stylish. Her makeup is flawless. Foundation, eyeshadow, mascara, lip gloss. Her weave is long, a mixture of blonde and brown wavy hair. Andrea holds on to me, and when she lets go, she asks, "Where have you been?" She's been handling her business, Colby says. He kisses me on both cheeks. How's my girl? He asks. I'm good, Colby. How are you? Girl, you know me. I stay fabulous, he says. And who do we have here? He looks Sam up and down. This is my friend Sam. She goes to my school. Colby hugs her and then reaches for the plastic grocery bag in my hand. How you got up in there? Or what you got up in there? I take out one of the chicken wings and pass the bag. He takes one, grabs a napkin, and gives the bag to Andrea. The five of us feast on corner store food. Sam says, "So do you all go to the same school?" Andrea, Colby, and Lily nod. Andrea says, "We go to Northside. I like it there. I mean, it's not like St. Francis, you know." She looks at me. We're not traveling the world and learning a million languages. Colby laughs. How many languages do you speak now, Jade? Don't do that, I say. I'm only learning one other language. Andrea swallows a handful of chips. French? She asks. Lily jumps in. You know Jade is all about Spanish. Do you guys remember when we were in elementary school and Jade said she wanted to go to Sesame Street and speak Spanish with Maria and Luis and work in the fix-it shop? They laugh at me and I laugh too. She was like, I'm going to travel the world and be rich and buy my mom a big house. Remember that? Lily asks. That's still the goal, I tell them. Lily looks at Sam and says, but for real, there's not much to say about Northside. We don't have all the electives you do at St. Francis. The only club worth mentioning is the after-school poetry club. It's kind of DIY though. Sam says, DIY? Yeah, it's not really an official club or anything. My English teacher, Mrs. Baker, lets us use her room after school to write poems. There's no teacher. We just kind of meet up and write and then share. That's pretty cool, Sam says. Lily reaches for a pillow and props it against her back. Not as cool as having a garden on your rooftop and cooking classes. Well, yeah, but I don't know many teachers at St. Francis who would let us stay in their classrooms and write poems. I mean, they'd make it so formal that they'd take the fun out of it, you know? It really would have to become a club or an after-school class with a staff advisor and blah, 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 blah. No freedom to just be, you know? She's right, I tell them, just to be sure Lily, Colby, and Andrea know Sam isn't trying to make them feel better about Northside. Lily's poems are so good, she could probably teach the class, I tell Sam. Lily smiles. Big, like she needed to hear that. Andrea turns the music up a little and says, "This is my song." And that gets us all singing and listening to music for the rest of the afternoon. When it's time for Sam to go home, she takes her cell phone out and calls her grandfather to let him know that she's on her way. Lily gives me a look and says, "You're walking her to the bus stop." I'll go too. We say our goodbyes to Andrea and Colby and leave. As we walk to the bus stop, Lily says to Sam, "So, did you just move to Portland?" Me? Oh no, I was born at Emmanuel Hospital. I've lived in Portland my whole life. Oh, Lily says, her brows scrunched in a fit of confusion. So where do you live? Northeast Portland, not too far from Peninsula Park. Lily doesn't ask any more questions. She keeps walking. We make it to the bus stop just as the bus is pulling up. See ya, Sam says. We wave and say goodbye. On the way home, I tell Lily what Sam's grandma said about North Portland. That's why I walked her to the bus stop, I say, to make her grandparents comfortable. Lily laughs. She says, white people are a trip. What do you mean? I can't believe her grandparents are scared to let her come over here. There are a lot of white people who live over here. Don't they know that? She asks. And maybe they don't know, but Northeast has its sketchy streets still. It hasn't changed over there that much. Lily shakes her head. How are you going to live in a hood but be afraid to come over to another hood? She asks. We laugh about that the whole way home. Chapter 27. Agradecido. Thankful? I think I pronounced it correctly. For Thanksgiving, Mom and I do our annual tradition. This time, EJ and Lily join us. We go downtown and volunteer at the Portland Rescue Mission. We don't have much, but we have more than a lot of other people, Mom says. I hope one day my family gets to a place where we can be thankful just to be thankful and not because we've compared ourselves to someone who has less than we do. After we're done dishing our turkey dinners with all the holiday fixings, we eat dinner at my house. Mom made ham with her not-so-secret ingredient of brown sugar, and all the traditional sides are spread across the table. Everything looks so good, you'd never know this wasn't some fancy dining room table holding it all up. As we eat, Lily says, my teacher, Mrs. Phillips, doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. Can you believe that? Mom puts her fork down. Why not? She doesn't have anything to be thankful for? EJ swallows and says, oh, Mrs. Phillips, I remember her. She's that revolutionary activist fight the power teacher at Northside. I loved her class, he says. I remember her telling us that Thanksgiving should actually be a national day of mourning or something like that. Lily nods. That's exactly what she says. What does that even mean? Mom asks. EJ answers. Basically, we're sitting here feasting and celebrating that our nation was stolen from indigenous people. Columbus didn't discover nothing. All of a sudden, my food doesn't taste as good as before. Mom wipes her mouth with her napkin. I've never thought about it like that. Thanksgiving has always been a day for getting together with family, a day to thank God for my personal blessings, but, well, I guess your teacher has a point. Mom takes another bite of food. Lily says, yeah, Mrs. Phillips is always asking us to think about other perspectives. Next week, we're having a cultural exchange with teens who attend a program at the Native American Youth and Family Center. I think we went there too, EJ says, and they came over to the rec. I feel so embarrassed that I've never even thought about any of this. Never realized that there was a community center for Native American youth here in Portland. Mom, EJ, and Lily keep on talking, comparing the experience of African Americans and Native Americans in the United States. I don't even know what was said to make EJ get all fired up. He's talking like he's in a debate. I mean, I get all of that. The U.S. has done some messed up things, but I'd rather live here than any other country. Real talk. I feel what Mrs. Phillips is saying and everything, but at the end of the day, we still got a lot to be thankful for living here. Mom takes a bite of food, then says, Jade, you're mighty quiet over there. What do you think? Me? I take a moment to get my thoughts together. I guess, well, you're all right. I think the U.S. has a lot to be thankful for and a lot to apologize for. The rest of dinner is more somber than usual. The mood doesn't lighten up until Mom brings out the peach cobbler that Lily and I made. It's the first time we've ever baked anything from scratch. Mom dishes out cobbler for each of us. I watch her as she takes her first bite. You like it? I ask. Mm-hmm. She says, even though the look on her face says she wants to spit it out. EJ gets a spoon and scoops out a bite. Let me taste, he says. He blows on the spoon, all dramatic, like it's burning hot, and then puts it into his mouth. He swallows and looks at Mom, who gives him her don't start nothing look, and he says, no comment. Lily hits him on the arm. Forget you. Next time you make the dessert. Next time, let's just get ice cream from Safeway. We all end up laughing, and the night ends with card games and Scrabble, and I go to bed full in so many, many ways. Chapter 28, Las Diferencias, which means differences. It's the first weekend of December. The rain is steady and the air is cold. Maxine honks her horn for me to come out. I get into her car and am greeted by the blowing heat. It feels like a sauna in there. We drive downtown to the Portland Art Museum. Have you been to a museum before? Maxine asks. Does OMSI count? Kind of. Well, not really. I mean, OMSI is interactive, so it's not the same as traditional museums. That's what makes it so unique. Where we're going today is like, well, I don't know. It might be different than what you've experienced. Like, you can't touch the art and you won't be able to take photos, and it's a really quiet space, and we'll have to talk softly. I feel like she thinks I don't know how to act in public or something. Okay, got it, I say. I look out the window. The weeping clouds drench the ground. Maxine turns her windshield wipers to a faster speed. When we get to the museum, we meet up with the rest of the group. Sabrina repeats some of the same rules Maxine told me in the car. She gives us a time to meet back at this spot. Have fun, she says. As we enter the first exhibit, Maxine's phone rings. Give me a sec, she says. She walks away from me and answers her phone. John? I stand to the side of the entrance. 10 minutes passed. I go to find Maxine. She is outside, standing in front of the building. When she sees me, she mouths, "I'm so sorry. This is important." She shoos me off with her hand. Go ahead, go on in without me. I stand there for a moment. Are you sure? She nods. I walk away. I wonder what they have to talk about. I mean, when you break up with someone, it's over. That's it. What's left to discuss over and over again? And why do these conversations have to happen when Maxine is with me? For all the things about Maxine that I respect and admire, there are things like this that make me feel like she can't really tell me anything about loving myself and taking care of myself, because here she is, doing the opposite. I walk around the museum and bump into another mentee-mentor pair who are taking photos, even though there's a sign that says no photographs are allowed. Hey, Miss Jude, Brenda calls out. Where's Maxine? On the phone outside. I don't try to hide my frustration. Brenda makes a confused face, but doesn't say anything. You can join us, she says. We walk through the museum, but I can't even really enjoy it. I feel like I'm intruding on their time, and I can't stop thinking how rude it was for Maxine to take that phone call, especially from John. I stray from Brenda and Jasmine and walk through the photograph collection. I have walked through most of the exhibits when I see Sabrina, who tells me it's time to meet up at the front so we can reflect. We're all supposed to say one thing we enjoyed and one question we have. I skip out on the closing to go to the bathroom. When I come out of the restroom, Maxine is sitting on a bench in the lobby. So sorry about that. We had to have that conversation, she says. What are you doing? I don't say anything. I can't even fake a that's okay smile. Well, I feel terrible that we didn't spend time together. How about I take you to dinner? I don't really want to say yes, but I'm hungry and I know that there aren't many options for dinner at home. Let's walk to someplace close, she says. On the way to the restaurant, Maxine does most of the talking because I don't really have anything to say to her. Plus, it's hard to walk and talk at this pace, going uphill. I'll be out of breath if I say too much. So what did you think? She asks. I want to tell her that I think she should have called John back later. That I think I should be important too. But I know there's only one answer that she's looking for. It was awesome. I loved it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You know, this city has so much to offer, so much great art to see. People just stay in their bubble of North Portland and never get out to see all that the city has, she says. Have your friends ever been here? I know she's not referring to my friends at St. Francis, but the ones in my neighborhood. Probably, I say, even though I'm not sure. When we get to the restaurant, there's a short wait and then we are seated. Once we've had time to look the menu over, the waitress approaches the table. Maxine orders grilled salmon on top of arugula and an Arnold Palmer. She says to me, "Get whatever you want, okay?" I really want a burger and fries, but I don't want a healthy eating, healthy living lecture right now. So even though I've never had arugula and I have no idea what an Arnold Palmer is, I order the same thing as Maxine. When the meal comes, I realize that an Arnold Palmer is some weird name for lemonade and iced tea mixed together. It's actually pretty good. So is the salmon and arugula. Maxine starts with the small talk, but I can't muster the fakeness. I'm still thinking about what she said on our way here. What did you mean when you said people in North Portland live in a bubble? I live in North Portland and Oh, no, not you specifically. I meant that I know a lot of people who only stay within the small confinement of their blocks. They don't really go out of their neighborhood to explore other areas. Maxine squeezes a lemon into her drink. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Maxine, but I don't like her talking about my friends like she knows them, like she understands something about them, anything about them. Maybe they can't afford these places, I tell her. Yes, well, maybe the museum is a little pricey, Maxine says, but I think they have special discounts for families who can't afford full admission. All that kind of info is on their website. Well, not every family has a computer, and if they do, they might not have the internet, I tell her. Maxine is full of ideas. There are a lot of free things to do, too. I mean, even taking a drive to Multnomah Falls or going to Boonville Dam. Yeah, well, my mom doesn't have a car, so there goes that idea, I say. And if she did, I'm sure she'd need to be conservative on where to drive in order to keep gas in the car. Maxine shakes her head at me. Always the pessimist, she says, laughing. Always the realist, I think. Always the poorest. Maxine goes on talking, not even realizing she's so oblivious. We've been at the restaurant so long that most of the people who were here when we first came in are gone, and a whole new crowd has come. How's your mom? Maxine asks. She's good. Working a lot, I say. And what is it that she does again? Again? I never told her. I tell Maxine about my mom working for Miss Louise. And now she's working for another woman on the weekends. Even though this is good news, Maxine's eyes are full of pity. She sounds like those annoying adults who take babies by the hand and talk in gibberish in that childish voice. So many people can't find work in this economy, she says. Your mom is lucky. I think, she is not lucky. She works hard. Figured out a way to keep the lights on and the bills paid. Didn't give up. All this talk about my mom makes me wonder about Maxine's family. I ask her, what about your mother? What does she do? She's a surgeon, Maxine says. So she must have been at work a lot when you were younger too. She was actually. Yeah, she was. Did you have a mentor? No, I didn't, Maxine tells me. I wonder why people didn't think Maxine needed a mentor. I wonder why Maxine thinks she can be a mentor if she's never had one. The waitress asks if we need anything else before leaving the bill. Maxine says no and pulls out her wallet. Any other questions for me? Maxine asks. I wait for the waitress to walk away and then I say yes. What makes you want to do this? Well, I guess I'm doing this because I want to make a difference and because I roll my eyes. The real reason, I tell her. Is it good money? Did you always want a little sister? There has to be a reason. Maxine laughs. Okay, here it is. The money does help, of course, and let's see, well, I'm really interested in working with young girls and women, especially women of color, in regards to their mental, physical, and emotional health. So I thought this would be a good experience for me. Maxine tells me. But why, I ask. I mean, what makes you want to do something like that? The waitress comes back with chocolate mints and the receipt. Maxine signs her name. I guess I'm doing it because I could have used someone helping me out when I was your age. It would have been nice to have someone to talk to. You think I need someone to talk to? I ask. I don't know, do you? It takes me a while to answer, not because I don't need someone, but because I don't want to say yes and have her thinking my mom is not a good mother. I don't want her thinking I am some hood girl with a bunch of problems that she has to come and fix. Jade, I know this is kind of awkward, Maxine says. I mean, we're still getting to know each other. I know it's going to take time, but hopefully one day you'll feel like you can tell me anything. I tune out some of what Maxine is saying because now it's starting to sound like something she practiced, something Sabrina told her to say. And when she says, we're going to have so much fun with the other mentor-mentee pairs, I can't wait for us to grow and learn from each other. I ask her, how is that going to happen if you keep flaking out on the activities? Maxine looks stunned that I actually said this. She takes a sip of her Arnold Palmer, even though there's not much left to drink. You have every right to be upset with me for being so flaky today, Maxine says. And last month, I add. All I can say is that I'm sorry, and like I told you earlier, it won't happen again. I don't say anything. I'm just sitting here thinking how different we are, how I'm not sure why Mrs. Parker thought we'd be a good pair. You have my word, Jade, Maxine says. I hope you'll give me another chance. One more chance, but that's all she's got. And that's where we'll stop today. That was chapter 26 through 28. Chapter 26 through 28 of Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson.